What do you do when your child calls you a dumb fucking bitch? Oh shit.
I heard of Heather from her podcast. Everything she said really resonated within me. We parent very similarly and we have some life experiences in common. What really stuck with me though is she always was saying what resists persists. Because of that kind of sticking in my soul, I came to the discovery that I had a drinking problem. And in December of 2017, I became completely sober. But what happened at that time was I completely stripped away my coping mechanism of dealing with severe trauma and all the stress of life. I don't want to do the same bad habits and traits that I was using all those years. So I thought Heather is exactly the right person to help me. So I had a phone call with her, signed up for the mastery, and it's been amazing ever since. Heather is completely honest. She will tell you, she does not pull punches, and she will tell you exactly what it is you need to hear. She also will do whatever she needs to do. She meets you where you are at. It's not that she has a program and she kind of expects you to fit into the program. She talks to you, she gets to know you, and then she helps you with exactly what you need. She built trust immediately, and she sincerely cared about who I was. I think the moment I realized that it started working was that I was starting to feel energy again in my life. I have 5 teenagers, I have 4 dogs, 4 cats, a husband. I have been exhausted since I had my first baby. And for the first time ever, I was sleeping really well, but I had this energy and I started feeling joy again. And I just never have felt that way.
Welcome back to the show, guys. Yes, it is labeled explicit for a reason. We are having adult conversations, and today is no different. Let's get started. All right, ladies. So I know there's going to be some debate on this topic. This is a true story that happened to me. And yes, unfortunately, I tell my children all the time that they may be products of conversations that I have on the podcast or stories I tell in the book. But they are my greatest teachers. And I think all of our children are our greatest teachers. So with their permission, I utilize our parenting moments for opportunity for growth. So, first of all, when things like this happen in my parenting journey of, children saying things that wouldn't normally be socially acceptable, the feedback I typically receive from someone of an older generation is, I would have never talked to my mom like that because I would have got slapped in the face, or I would have got my ass beat, just things in general of like, oh, my child would never talk to me like that. So I want to give you a bigger perspective here of what's going on, because there is a paradigm shift happening in parenting, and we need to have kind of like a come to Jesus moment about it, because what's really happening is, the way that we were parented and the way our parents were parented caused a lot of trauma. Let's just be honest, right? It caused a lot of trauma. And there's scientific research to prove that like spanking a child, slapping a child, beating a child, your emotional words towards a child, like discipline, consequence, chronically emotional abuse. There's a difference between disciplining a child and having consequence, but the yelling and the screaming and the combativeness in relationships, there is scientific proof and evidence that you actually are rewiring a brain for trauma when this is present chronically. So when a child says to me, "You're a dumb fucking bitch," which my teenage son said to me, and I will tell you the whole story and how it went down and what really happened, was, that is a breeding ground. That is an opportunity to get your ass beat, right? Traditionally, of, "What did you say to me?" Right? "Get your ass over here." And then you're screaming. That volcano is about to erupt inside of you. And you may want to punch that child, slap that child, drag them by their ear to their room and say, "You're grounded for the rest of your life. Don't you ever fucking talk to me like that again." Right? "I'm going to take away this. I'm going to take away that. I'm going to take away this." And you're screaming and yelling. And guess what just happened? You are rewiring your child's brain for trauma. And as you know, if you are a child of a product of this, as you're older, then you have all this work to do to reverse engineer the trauma that has been implanted in you. And then when you have your own children, you are bringing this pattern into your parenting because you know nothing else, right? So you're reacting off of trigger, or you do the complete opposite. So where's this healthy boundary in between? So I am here today to kind of not decode, but to tell you what I did and why I do what I do. And by no means am I a guru. I actually feel like there is no such thing as a parenting expert because, one, a lot of the parenting books that I read are actually written by people who are don't have children, which is very weird. A lot of the parenting books are written I'm sure they have children, but some of them don't. And the ones that do, they're out of the actual parenting phase, right? Because maybe their children have children or something like that. So what I do find is a lot of parenting books are based on research. The research shows this, but there's no practical application of, what do I do in that moment when your child calls you a dumb right? That's what I'll say now, a dumb And what do you do in that moment? So here's my breakdown of this. And this is just me, and I'm just one person. And my mission is to help you feel confident as a parent and to break those generational patterns of abuse in how you, in the relationship between you and your child. Okay. So I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always cool as a cucumber, and I'm not always like this every single day, but this is how it went down. So my son was mad. I got 3 boys. They're 13, 8, and 5. And the 13-year-old was annoyed and agitated. Okay. I talk about red, green, and yellow zones. So because he was agitated, he was in his yellow zone, meaning, the wind, everyone has their yellow zones. We're just I'm off today. Okay. So he was in his yellow zone, and then he interacted with his 8-year-old brother, and something happened, and he was annoying him because he was in his yellow zone. And, when you're annoyed, you want to annoy the rest of the world, right? And his 8-year-old brother headbutted him. Now, if you've ever gotten headbutted, that is the worst feeling in the entire world, right? If your child, if your child has ever headbutted you, it's instant fight or flight. There's just something triggered within you, and you're just oh my gosh, this feels awful. I just want to punch somebody in the face. So, he came upstairs, and I said something okay, calm down, what's going on? But I was trying to calm and diffuse the situation in the red zone. You can't do that because the child is, it's like talking to a brick wall. Their stress hormones are through the roof. They're not being rational. You can't do that. It's like when you're breaking up a fight and you're asking the person so why did you want to fight? They're still in fight or flight mode. You can't talk to them. So something happened, and I probably said, calm down, guys, what's going on? And so my son, under his voice, under his breath, said something about me you're such a dumb fucking bitch. And so instantly, my brain went to, okay, he's pissed. He's beyond pissed. Okay. I didn't react at all. And I'm going to tell you why I think I didn't react later. So I didn't react at all. And in my brain, I went, he's in his red zone. You can't talk to him until he's in his green zone. Because if you go in there right now, you're just going to do more damage. And the reason why I know this, guys, is from trial and error, right? From in the past, making really bad decisions as a parent and going in there and then just literally adding more fuel to the fire and just watching it explode, right? So why am I going to enter someone else's red zone when I'm just going to get ignited and then we're both going to be calling each other dumb fucking bitches, because it's not going to be pretty. So I waited. And he came out of his room and he immediately apologized and said, I'm sorry for calling you that. And I said, well, I understand you were angry, and I understand that, and thank you for your apology, but those words are not acceptable in this home. Therefore, there's a consequence. So punishment versus consequence, right? You don't pay your taxes, you have to pay interest. You speed, you get a speeding ticket. So it doesn't mean, the punishment versus consequence thing, it doesn't mean that in that moment you have to scream and yell and take everything away. So there's a consequence for your words. There's a consequence, especially when you're projecting your words onto somebody else in the home, right? It's one thing to say, fuck. It's another thing to say, you're this type of person. So there's a consequence for his words. And we said it in a kind, loving demeanor. And he knew that his words had a consequence, and he took ownership for it and followed through. Now, do you see how this would have been different if I said, how dare you, da, 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 you're grounded, blah, blah, blah. And then I say things out of a heightened reaction, and then he doesn't respond well, right? And then we're both angry at each other. So the key here is you need to circle back around when your child is in the green zone. I remember one time when I was doing a speaking gig talking to a group of parents at a school, and I introduced the red, yellow, and green zone. And I said, in the green zone, we're all fine and dandy, right? We're all getting along. And in the yellow zone, we do have yellow zones, but a lot of people are not conscious enough to understand what their yellow zone is. But you're feeling it like, ooh, I'm getting agitated. Oh, I'm kind of on the edge today, right? I'm on the edge. And the red zone is the blow up. And that's where we want to discipline, and that's where we want a consequence. But the truth is we have to wait. You have to wait and circle back around to the conversation when your child is therefore in their green zone. And go, remember yesterday when you blew up on your brother? What was going on there? And then you can say it from a calm state of being. So there's another side of this equation that I'm not talking about. This is typically the side of the equation that you read in the books and go, well, Heather, that's all great and dandy, but what do I do when I am very reactive? So I posted this scenario in my Facebook group, the Mom is in Control Village, and people said, oh, you're way more enlightened than me. You're way more evolved and conscious than me, because I would have never been able to react that way. So this is where the magic happens. This is where you have to do the work. This is where, when you say to me, I can't afford it, I don't have time, and I say, your excuses are keeping you stuck. Your excuses are actually causing you to cause more trauma in your family. Your excuses are your resistance to break the generational patterns of trauma and emotional abuse. That is what's happening here. And it's really sad to see, because you can't make anybody do the work when they're not willing to do the work, right? In order to be non-reactive, I had to do the work. And what did that mean? I had to feel really comfortable in my own body and mind. I had to get really crystal clear on how I wanted to feel in my parenting. I had to get really crystal clear on how I wanted to feel in my marriage, in my home, in my career, with my time, my money, my energy. I needed the clarity to know who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world. That is what the alignment workshop is going to gift you. Because guys, we're living out of alignment. We're parenting by default. We're living from this place of exhaustion and misery. No wonder why you are reactive. When you can't sleep at night because you're curious if you're, going to be able to pay the bills, or if your marriage is going to fall apart, or am I failing as a parent? It's not about the parenting strategy. It's about the prep work to get to that moment. So when you are in that moment with your child, you are all there and you are non-reactive. What is energetic time management? What does managing your time have anything to do with parenting? When you feel in alignment in your life, when you feel in control of your time, it's the ripple effect. It's going to show up in every aspect of your life. When you're so badly just creating freedom and space, and you know how to create that for yourself and you actually follow through, this is where the magic happens. Because when you feel fuller, when you feel like you have the space, when you feel like I'm strong, I'm confident, I know exactly what I want, and I know how to get it, this is going to ripple and directly influence your parenting. So understand that this parenting stuff, it's a projection, right? I'm not a huge advocate of our children's behavior as a reflection of us, but what I am a huge advocate of is our children are here to teach us where we can grow. And life gives you contrasts, right? Simple contrast is when your child says to you, you're a dumb fucking bitch, and you react and you do things that you are so ashamed and embarrassed of. And at the end of the day, go, what did I just do? We teach people how to treat us. And my child knows that those words are not valued in our home. Those words are not acceptable. But I also value connection, and I also value love, and I also value respect. And if I expect my child to respect me physically, meaning they're not going to lash out at me, they're not going to physically harm me, I have to do the same with them. So it's, I see you. I know. Thank you. I thank you for apologizing. I know those words weren't meant to be harmful, but they were said. And because they were said, there's a consequence. And when you can get to that point in your life where you're having this connection with your child, this heart to heart, rather than screaming and yelling, this is what it feels like to be in control. But the strategy doesn't start in that moment. The strategy starts with you feeling in control of your whole life. You taking the action steps to do the pre-work. You got to do the work, guys. You can't just expect some freaking magical strategy in that moment and everything will change. That's a symptom to the deeper rooted problem. Why do you feel disrespected? Why do you feel out of control? Why do you feel like there's never enough? You have to step back, reassess, do the work, and then lead your life from a place of alignment. You have control. You have mastery. The question is, why do you believe that you are not enough? Your children will show you where you need to grow. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Enrollment is now open. Hey ladies, guess what? Have you been secretly wondering how you can work with me one-on-one and also get access to my amazing community of like-minded women who are here to blaze their own path in parenting and life? If you are, head on over to Mom is in Control, as we are now accepting applications for Mastery and Soul Elite. These are two different levels of coaching. One is the foundation of conscious parenting, emotional intelligence, helping you feel in alignment with your time and your energy. And the other one is for 6- and 7-figure established business owners who want to up their leadership game and create sustainability in their lives. So for those of you who apply in May, you have sweet access to some amazing bonuses, which I will talk throughout the podcast in the coming days. So head on over to momisincontrol.com, fill out your application, and once you do, you'll get on the phone with someone on my team for an introductory call, and then you and I will connect. Just know you are very capable of making magic happen in your life, and you have the courage to do it.